Okay, as we move along with constructing our cover for our journal, we're here at step 5, which will be our last step. We just need to finish off the insides of our cover pages. Here we have our book where we have glued on our outside paper, but still on the inside we need to finish off this area. What we're going to do, our first step in that we'll take to cover that, is we're going to take some measurements. So you'll want to have a ruler, a pencil, and you may use an X-Acto and or some scissors in the process as well. So the first step is we will measure. You'll notice that over here we have our edges of our paper, the front cover that we've turned up, and we have basically a line there. We want our paper, cover paper, to come out to that line so that that's covered and that we have a nice straight line, a nice finish there. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure from that point out to the edge of your book, and then minus off just about a quarter, maybe even just an eighth of an inch. So we'll get that measurement. You may want to write that down. And then we're going to take the same measurement from the top to bottom, and we're going to basically subtract off about an eighth of an inch top and bottom. So we'll get that measurement. Okay. Then at that point you can take that measurement with whatever type of paper you'd like to line the inside with. I've chosen, on at least on one side of my cover, to goes that way. The things of a square book, you have to double check yourself. So I have paper that's the exact same as my cover paper. You might want to use that as a choice, or you may just want to use a contrasting paper. You might want to use the same kind or color of paper that you use for your cardstock piece here that was actually glued into the book. That can give a nice finished look. But here what I did is I went ahead and took on a larger piece of paper and just drew out those dimensions and created myself a square or a rectangle that would work. Once you've cut that out, you're going to want to take it and lay it out on your book. And this is going to kind of blend in with my cover, but you're going to want to take a look at it, and when you bring it up here to make a nice straight line, just double check that you have a nice little border all of the way around, but you can't see any of our cover, the board for our cover there. So then we'll be able to put glue on the wrong side, line it up here, and smooth everything out, and we'll have that covered on the inside. And you could do that on both sides if you'd like, but I also did want to show you another option. Something that I like for my journal to have, and I did do this in my previous book, is I like for my journal to have, I'm actually going to put it on the back side of this one, I like for my journal to have a pocket where I can stick things as I go along until I'm able to put them in my journal. So what I have done to create that, I'll show you basically the finished part from my pocket here. And I did choose to use two contrasting pieces of paper sort of to help you see what I'm doing here. So this is going to wind up to make a pocket then I will be able to stick paper in there. It is open at this edge, but because it's the spine edge of the book, it's going to trap anything. It's not going to fall out. So this is a really easy pocket to make. Just to show you quickly what I did for that process. And I took my first sheet of paper, and this is just an 8.5/11 sheet of cardstock, which is handy because it's basically the dimensions of my book already, with just a flat border around. So I just laid my piece here to where I knew it would be covering this edge, and I can just slightly see my cover sticking out, and I just took a ruler, again with about that of an inch border. And I just drew myself a line to cut on. So that then I was able to trim that down. And I wound up basically just like we did in our other process. I wound up with just a sheet of paper, which I could just glue that down. But then I'm going to take a piece of paper, it could be the same, like I said, I've chosen a contrasting color here. I took another sheet of paper, and what I did is I laid it out and decided basically where do I want that pocket to hit. So I want it just about halfway up that page. I'm just going to line that up over here at this edge and basically hold all of that together. And then I'll be able to flip it over, and I can draw this edge of my flat piece of paper. Then from that line I can come out just about a half an inch, and I'm going to draw another line on both edges there. Okay, so now I have on this piece of paper, on this outer line, I can go ahead and cut that, and what I will get, then I will have a smaller rectangle like this. On my first lines that I drew, which were the lines that my flat piece of paper made, I can take those lines and I could take a ruler and I could take my bone folder. And to make a nice fold, what I did when it was still flat is I just took the ruler and the bone folder, and if you take the tip of the bone folder and just draw like you would with a pencil or an X-Acto and give a little bit of pressure, that will score a mark on the paper to where it will just want to fold right up along that line. And then I can take my bone folder and make a nice crease. And I did that with the other as well. And then you wind up with a little corner here, which I can cut that out so that when I fold these up, then I'll have a nice finished off point there. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my flat sheet and I'm going to set it inside of my pocket here. I will glue these down, and then I'll have a page with a pocket. And I'll be able to follow the same process that I did with my flat sheet. I'll just be able to line that up with a nice border around it, and I'll be able to glue that down, and then on one side of my book I'll have a pocket for catch for pieces of paper and ephemera and things like that. So once we glue those two pages down, then we will have our journal completed. Everything will be sewn together. One thing that I did want to point out to you, you may notice, especially depending on the thickness of your book, that right now you have kind of a triangle shape. It's going to be pretty thick at the spine and very thin here at the foredge of the book. As we progress on to the next series in the blog post, and the next post I want to share with you just some of the things that I've done in my previous journal and in this journal to add to our tabs. See in my journal here where I have the daily planner page and my blank page, and then we have all these lovely tabs that we can do things to. So just some additional things that we'll brainstorm regarding that and what we can do to add those. But once you've glued your front and back cover liner in, then your journal is done. It's ready to hit the road, and you start working in that. So that will be the last step. I really appreciate you all for joining me along the way, and I hope that you've learned something about either just simply the bookbinding method of the pamphlet stitch is very versatile. And we may talk further about some other ways to slightly alter this book, to simplify it, or to make smaller some different books. Or that you've thought of some great ways that you can personalize your own planner or journal. to be able to add things and even to be able to add to it as you go along. So again, thank you all for joining me, and then come join me again for the blog post regarding the ways that we can continue to add and embellish to the book as we go along.